Hello, everybody. Finally, we're back. I'm so sorry that we've not had chat the last couple of weeks. Um, a lot going on with it, but I'll explain a little bit. After the last show we had 3 weeks ago, I phoned my mom right after the show to ask her if she wanted to go to town, meet in town. There was a town in between both of ours, and meet up and go to eat and stuff. Well, she didn't sound right. It's like she was searching for her words and everything. So it was either like, okay, either somebody's sitting there and she's acting odd because she's got a gun to her head, or or something's going on with her health. So I messaged my nephew and asked him to go check on her. Well, he said he would, but then he never got back to me. So I messaged my mom's best friend that lives up the road, one of her good friends, and she said she'd go check on her. When they got down there, she wasn't making any sense. It almost looked like she was drunk, but she hadn't been drinking. My mom's not a drinker.
Oh,
So, yeah, we she couldn't hardly put two words together at all. So it was pretty scary. Ambulance came before I got there and had left before I got there because it takes me over an hour to get to my mom's. And they did check her out. Physically, she was fine, but her speech was very disjointed, and she just very foggy brain. She would get so frustrated because she knew what she wanted to say, but she couldn't find the words to say it. So we knew at that point that it had to be at least a mini stroke, if not several.
mm,
But she refused to go to the hospital. So I wasn't going to leave her there by herself. Yeah, pretty sure a TIA we tree. So I stayed there with her for about 5 days, 4 or 5 days, and I stayed there with her because I didn't want to leave her alone. She was very tired, pretty lethargic, and with each day, though, she gained more energy and she gained more words. She still searches for a few words every now and again, but for the most part, she's fine and still refuses to go get any lab work or testing done. So
mm.
it's very frustrating, but my family at home needs me too. In the meantime, my granddaughter's mom was due to have her baby, so I had to get back because she had several false occurrences of going into labor. So I'd come back and I'd have my granddaughter for a couple of days, and then she'd go back home and then be the same thing again. Well, she ended up on the 4th having her baby boy. So I basically I consider him a grandson, even though it's not my blood. It's my son's ex-girlfriend's and her baby, but still love them and want the best for them. And so I consider that a new addition to the family. But anyway, yeah, so I took care of my granddaughter for several days while she was in the hospital because she's a high-risk pregnancy. So she had to be in there several days. Then she came home, and then they got sick. So my granddaughter got strep and a cold, and of course with a new baby in the house, and her, she doesn't breastfeed, so that would mean the immunity wouldn't be as good in the baby as it would breastfeeding. I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody who doesn't breastfeed. I'm just saying I didn't want the baby sick, so I told that I would take my granddaughter back for a few days until she was, had her medicine in her and she was doing better, and I used my oils on her. And she started to do better, and then she went home, and boom, the symptoms just got worse again. The new medicine wasn't working right. So she had to come back to my house and took care of her some more. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been dealing with, and then I got sick. So So then I ended up with a cold and strep. So I'm just now getting over that. So, but I missed you guys terribly. And I know I feel awful because I feel like I'm not very reliable for the chats. And I know people look forward to the chats, but at the same time, I have to put my family first, you know. So I love you guys and I hope you understand. And I appreciate all those that stick with me through all of these ups and downs. I really love you guys and I appreciate it. So with that being said, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate all the kind comments out to the side. I've seen all the kind words you're saying, which I really appreciate. But yeah, it seems like the devil's really trying to work on me, you know, pull us down. And there was another issue I don't really want to get into, but, you know, another family member that had some issues. And so, yeah, been dealing with all of that. But I appreciate each and every one of you. And then the last time we did have our chat, Squib mentioned something and he found it out differently, so he wants to correct himself in that because, you know, he's just an awesome, wonderful dude and wants to make sure that we're all properly informed. So I'm going to present to and let him take it away and show you what he needs to show you.
Thank you. Okay, so can you see the fire bottle? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is the kind of fire extinguisher that you can buy at the Home Depot big box store. And if you look at, let's see if I can click, there we go. Here, right on the side of the fire bottle, it says, do not store at high temperatures above 120 degrees Fahrenheit or at extremely cold temperatures below -40 degrees Fahrenheit. I was incorrect when I said that the cold weather would affect it. And I just wanted to straighten that out, that these dry chemical fire extinguishers, this is compressed air and baking soda more or less, that the cold weather will not affect it. It's high temperature. So if you live in Arizona and you leave this thing in the car, that might be a problem. But in the cold, these do work. And I didn't say that last time. I said that cold would affect them. So, and here, if you wanted to get a little bit more expensive one, this is a little bit higher end one, same thing. 120 degrees Fahrenheit to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. So do not be afraid to store one of these in your car in the winter or that it won't work. It should work just fine. Make sure you check the manufacturer's recommendation on the lifespan of them, though. These, I don't believe these at the Home Depot. Some of them are rechargeable where they will, you could take them to a fire extinguisher place. You could look them up online. Just type in fire extinguisher in your area, something like that. And some of these, they can, they'll replace the seal and they'll recharge them. There's if the manufacturer, if it says it's rechargeable and there's a manufacturer recommendation on the lifespan, you could do that. Or for $50, you could just throw it in the gutter and go get another. So that's all.
Awesome. Well, thank you for clarifying that. It takes a big man to say, well, I was wrong and I found out differently and I want to correct it, correct that information for everybody. And that's a pretty great temperature stance between it, you know. So that's pretty awesome. Still, for most weather, it would be fine for most people unless you're just in the extreme cold or like in Oklahoma. Now, here in Western Oklahoma, let me tell you, our vehicles inside can get up to like 106 degrees inside our vehicles, and probably more, but I'm just saying. So probably it would be okay most of the spring, fall, winter, and spring. Probably have to watch it some of those hot days in there because we can end up having 100-degree weather in the winter at times here. So just have to watch that because remember the temperature in the vehicle is going to be higher than the temperature outside the vehicle. It's like an oven. So just have to remember that, folks. But yeah, that's awesome to know.
Yeah, and something too, if you do have to use the fire extinguisher, these dry chemical fire extinguishers, like I said, all it is baking soda. It's not toxic. It's not harmful. It stinks. And it's going to make you cough and that sort of thing, but it is corrosive. So if you have an engine fire and you use one of these to put out the fire, you need to get that engine flushed as soon as possible. Get it to a car wash, flush it with a garden hose. There's never enough water to flush this stuff out. The longer you let it set on the engine, the more things it will corrode and the more damage it'll do. Obviously, putting out a fire is better than dealing with a little bit of rust. But we're talking about fuel injection, electrical, things like that can corrode. And now you're, instead of hundreds of dollars in repairs because you had some melted wires, now you got thousands of dollars of repairs. So
good point. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Well, this week we're going to continue our discussion. Last time we did discuss a few items to keep in your vehicle, but the main discussion was ways to winterize your vehicles to help. Hey, Sandy. Hey, BC, Mountain Man. Hey, everyone out there. The last time we discussed things to do to maintenance on your vehicle to help it do better through the winter, help prevent breakdown, things like that. This week we're going to go into basically survival items to have in a vehicle. So like if you have your flashlight, you want to make sure you have your batteries. We kind of mentioned that before, but you want extra batteries. And I'll tell you a trick that I use is on any of my kits that I do, if it's not something I use all the time, I will reverse one of the batteries or whatever battery is in there so that it's not draining it so bad. And then I just know when I open it up, I just immediately flip the top battery over or whatever to kind of help prevent the battery from draining. So that's one thing. So anything you have electrical, you're going to want to have, or that's battery operated, you want to have extra batteries for that in your vehicle. So anyway, so I'll as you guys go through them, if I have it on my list, I'll mark them out. But what are some other items that you think? Mouse, you had one that you thought that you have in your vehicle.
Yes, I do. Because I live in the low country of South Carolina, and there's water all around me on both sides of the highway that leads you here, I have one of the rescue me's that you attach to your keychain, and it will, the little razor in there will slice open your seatbelt, slice it open, cut it. Okay, when I'm operating on it, and then the other end here can break the side window that hangs on my keychain. And the reason I chose to get one that fits on my keychain and not the cute little hammer is my assumption is if I slide off the road, whether it's winter or heavy rain, whether the marsh, the tide is in or down, I'm going to be in pluff mud if it's down and I'm going to be sinking, or I'm going to be underwater, possibly on my side, on my roof, whatever, is that I believe my key, my prayer is, stays in the ignition. I'm going to be in a seatbelt, so it seemed to me it'd be easy to grab there. I've never heard of a key coming out of an ignition. It's not going to be a high impact accident. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You froze on my screen, but maybe it was just mine.
Okay. So my thinking is my key will stay in my ignition. I'm stuck in my seatbelt. All I have to do is jerk this and it comes off. They make these cute little hammers and stuff, but you don't have a way to attach it to your dashboard or somewhere you could reach it. It's only about as big as the palm of your hand, but it's only the hammer for breaking the windshield. My concern's getting out of the seatbelt. So that's my important thing. And I have a little flashlight on it. And this little bitty flashlight is a thug. I mean, it puts out some light. So, because that's my issue is water. We don't have a very strong winter, but our first winter there was an ice storm. I just stay home during that and look at my dock with some ice on it. But rainstorms for us get huge, and it's very easy to hydroplane. I was telling Squib, we don't have a shoulder to our highway. We have the marsh. So you have your white line going down the, or your yellow line going down the middle and the white on the other side. And then it is, 6 inches and it's marsh. When the hurricanes come, there are about 7 places that the water comes up and over the highway. So you're not getting out. And I don't drive at night, just period. But you'd never know if the water was up in, say, a king tide. So to me, this little bitty rescue me is as important as my get home bag that I keep in my back seat if I ever have to walk from Charleston, it's a 40-minute drive from there to get back to my place on the coast. I have tennis shoes, bug spray, that sort of thing in there. But this is my favorite little thing for living on water, is a little RESQ me, rescue me. Thank you. That was it.
Awesome.
That seatbelt will pull tight if the car is newer and it thinks it's been in a head-on collision. On newer vehicles, and by newer I mean we could go back probably about 10 years, built into the car seat is a device called a pretensioner. And it is almost like a little shotgun shell going off, and it will pull that seatbelt tight. Now, the seatbelt mechanically has a cam that will feel the inertia, and that's when it pulls you tight. Like if you slam on your brakes and you go to lean forward and your seatbelt is stuck, there's a little cam in there that just rolls forward from the inertia, and that locks it. And then as soon as it doesn't feel that inertia, it'll unlock. But in the same sensor that caused your airbag to go off, if that goes off, it'll also fire off your pretensioner if your vehicle is equipped with that. And it uses a little device called a squib or impulse cartridge, and it fires off, and it's all covered up by the plastic trim on your car seat, and that will pull that thing tight. So that might create a situation where you are really stuck in there. So having that tool to cut the seatbelt is handy. Your seatbelt should release, but
if not,
yeah, you're ready. You're definitely ready, Mouse.
Because once I get out of the seatbelt, I got to get out of the car, and that's why I thought. So I just kind of do a nerd practice thing, and I've done it. I've used it on some boat glass that everything washes up in the marsh. BC knows he's been past the bayou, and so I've hung it over a bucket and made sure I know how to drive it. So I think that my first thing that I would do is automatically cut that seatbelt so that this thing was locked in my hand. Because once I'm out of the seatbelt, right, I got to get out the window. And, I'm not going to be rolling it down as I'm sliding off,
Yeah, no kidding.
So that is good information that you had there, Squibness.
Well, I work for a car seat company, so I better know.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's another reason. Remember on windshields, you call auto glass, mobile people who come, that you always have to ask, we now know, for factory glass, like I'm a pickup truck, like an F-150, is what they were learning was people were not getting the best glass windshield. And I didn't know this, but it is the windshield that's of your airbag. Remember, you smash into it, and what was happening is the windshields were breaking out, and then people were just smashing into the steering wheel. And then you've got all that, I call it baking powder. It's like talcum, isn't it, Squib, that makes it look like when your airbag goes off, like it's smoky in your car?
That's on the older airbags, so there's still cars out there that still have that, but the newer ones, they've gone away from that, but it can still cause burns to your skin.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Because I know my glasses will break. I'll end up with 2 black eyes, but I don't look that good now, much less somebody pulling me back from the windshield. I've always said I wanted a man who would love me enough to drag me back in through the windshield and love me after what I look like after that. You know what I mean?
If you've ever seen an airbag explode, it's mounted in the steering column. It actually compresses the steering column. When your car goes to the body shop, they have to yank the whole steering column out and throw it away. You can't reuse it because it actually crushes it, like ejecting out of an airplane will compress your spine. So a long time ago, we used to take our extra airbags and we would blow them up behind the shop. We'd run 2 really long wires, like 50 feet of wire, to a battery, and we'd tie one into the negative post, and then we'd touch the other to the positive, and boom, and that thing would shoot up in the air 20 feet. So, I mean, it's really not that impressive, but I mean, if it's got enough force to lift itself off the ground 20 feet, imagine what it'll do. It has nowhere to go up against the steering column. It's going to come out quickly at you. But getting popped in the face is better than having your face go into the steering wheel, because that's how Dale Earnhardt died. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, well, the older ones had that powder residue that came out, and it actually caused burns on skin. But as far as I know, all the newer stuff doesn't have that. We had some airbag rips from I can't remember what company it was. It wasn't Takata, even though they're down the street, because that's the one that had all the airbag recalls. But we had another company in, and they were showing us some of the stuff. And actually, a lot of it works like some of the systems on the aircraft I used to work on for jettisoning bombs off the side of the plane or whatnot. So, yeah, it's all the same stuff.
That's interesting how it transitions over to other things, and to hear it explained helps to make sense of it. You know what I mean?
Parts are parts and pieces are pieces. So
yeah.
Hey, Keith Gregory, welcome. HRM Machinists out there as well. And I don't know if I mentioned Jared Walsh earlier, but Jared's out there. And we tree bonsai.
We tree bonsai, but drum roll, we have the Mountain Man. We love him.
Hey, Jared.
Oh my goodness. The Oklahoma Prepper's phone froze again. Night, Vern.
Good night, Vern, Oily said. He said good night, Oily.
It's so sweet that he comes to hug and kiss every time.
He's glad you feel better, too.
Thank you, Vern. I appreciate it. Dusty's out there. Hey, Dusty. Good to see ya. I wondered if you got my message over on Facebook. Okay, so Oklahoma, name an item that we need to have in our vehicle for winter preparedness. Oh, his phone froze. Well, never mind. Okay, I'll go to one. Okay, so a fire kit, a little fire kit. You know, I would say with a good butane or like a torch lighter, something that will be able to handle the wind. All great to have a fire still, love fire stills, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have one in your kit, but you want a torch lighter to have on hand. That way, if you are stuck in the middle of nowhere and it's freezing out, you need a way to keep yourself warm. So a fire kit will be beneficial if there's a way to get some branches and gather up some wood and make a fire. Especially like if Mouse were in the middle of nowhere and she got caught in ice cold water, say her car went off the side of the road. If she had that fire kit in her bag, she could grab her bag before she gets out of the vehicle. There she goes. She can have she can take that fire kit with her if there's an area where she can get some kindling and stuff, because she's going to be cold and she's going to be wet. She's going to need to have a change of clothes in that bag so that she can change her clothes so that she's not getting hypothermia. She's going to need to start a fire depending on the weather outside and get herself warmed up. So a little fire kit, say some true cotton balls, not the synthetic ones, cotton balls with some Vaseline smudged in there. So some little fire tinder bits of whatever it is, fat wood, birch bark, whatever you want to use. Even some lint from your dryer if you don't have access to either of those other things, and put those in a kit. Have them ready. Maybe some tin foil to start your fire on, say if the ground's wet nearby and you need a good dry surface to start your fire to get it going. Maybe a knife to chip off some of those you know, if you just have a stick of the fat wood, which I would say go ahead and have it shaved so it's all ready to go, but that's just me. But also something that you can use to cut some small branches, things like that, to use to put on that fire if you need to. The wet fire is great. It's little packets that you can, that take a good spark really quickly. Something like that. Windproof, waterproof matches. You can make your own waterproof matches by dipping them in candle wax, your matches, and that way they're kind of waterproof until you strike them. So those are some things as far as fire to have on hand for fire preparedness to use to make a fire if you need to warm yourself up.
Another thing I like in that, Oily, is and you're right, I'm going to get wet and get cold if it's winter. And even if it's not, I've got the little fire kit in there just because if, like, you know, BC was saying it would take him 100 days to get home, right? Right. I can use that smoke will help with the no-see-ums and with the mosquitoes, you know, for us, because you'd just be tortured, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, depending on the season, we have chiggers really bad here, which is what
Yes.
you call no-see-ums, right? Is that basically the same thing?
The no-see-ums, you can't. They're a little worse. The chiggers make you itch from something under your skin. The no-see-ums are like tiny, almost invisible gnats, and you just get a little whelp and itch way worse than a skeeter bite. But yes.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And trust me, you want something to keep those things off of you, and that smoke does help because it's a natural way to get that. Plus, it also kind of, if you smell like fire, if you live in an area where you have predators, it's a good way to kind of, because they want to go away from that scent. They don't like going to it. They like, most of them like going away from it. So I'm not guaranteeing you your safety, but I'm saying a lot of them away from a fire smell or a smoke smell. So anyway, but yeah, you know, speaking from somebody whose 11-year-old son was the second person in the state of Oklahoma, the first young person in the state of Oklahoma to get West Nile encephalitis, let me tell you, nearly lost him. So yeah, you want to take it seriously. You want to try to keep those bugs off of you. So, and so that's it on the fire making. Anybody else? And I said a knife. I'm trying to let everybody have a turn. So anybody else want to throw out anything out there?
The Bic lighter is all of our friends. You know, they make the little tiny ones too.
Yeah, they do. They have the ones where you can use that little rubber thing that hooks onto your keys or your keychain. Yep. So you can just pull that puppy right out if you need to. But I like the torch lighters because even in wind, they'll, you know, like a little torch. But you also have to be careful. You're getting a good quality lighter. You want to make sure it's one that the lighter fluid doesn't leak out that much. If you have a way to keep a little bit of extra lighting fluid container with it in there, then you need to have that as well. So that way, if it did leak out, you still have a way to get your fire going.
Mm-hmm. And it's important no matter what the weather, for sure.
And another thing to keep yourself warm, if you are stuck in your vehicle and you just can't get out, you don't really want to start a fire inside your vehicle. So some things like hot hands. They even have the larger, like, you know, those muscle pads that are like the hot hands. They warm up once they're exposed to air. That's something great that you can put on your core or your inner thighs to keep your body temperature up, to help warm you. Another thing would be, you know, to keep water and food in your vehicle. But of course, if it's freezing, if it's below freezing, that water will freeze. You need a way to melt that water. So a stainless steel container that you could put your plastic water bottle in would be great. And then a way you could either use your torch lighter to kind of heat that container to warm up that water a little bit, or you could you know, have like a little, just carry your water in a stainless steel bottle that has a cap on it, and you just take the cap off. And if you have one of those little small camp stoves, if you needed to, you know, little propane stove or whatever, you could use that in your vehicle if you needed to, or use your torch lighter. So just remember safety on those things. Have something like the foil and things like that to keep under it to keep your seats from catching fire. Another thing to keep you warm, of course, blankets. You want blankets and extra clothes, like I said before. If you got to work on your vehicle out in the cold, like to dig yourself out or whatever, you're going to want two kinds of gloves. You're going to want a thin kind that you can maneuver your fingers, you know, while you're working on stuff, because those big thick gloves don't work too well for that, or the kind where you can peel off the end just to have where your tips of your fingers are exposed, and also big thick gloves just to keep you warm for when you're huddling down, or if you have to trek in the cold for a while. Gloves and a hat, scarf, some extra socks. If you're walking along in the snow and your feet get wet from snow or water or whatever, you need some dry socks to put on. Even a pair of the little rubber things that slip over your shoes to help keep your feet dry. Another item that you could consider keeping in there. And of course, we talked about those little cleat things that slip over the end of your shoes, so that they have the little cleat thingies on the bottom so they grip better on ice or snow. So those are some things to consider. Sorry.
And you know, something to remember is, I like the way you use the word trek, is we're used to going from our car, from our house into our car walking through a mall, our car, you know, we don't do a lot of heavy walking. And in this case, we're going to be carrying a get home bag, right? Going to be a little bit stressful, and we're going to be walking for some distance. So you don't want cute thin socks on, right? I've got a good pair of hiking shoes in my get home bag. I want to get to getting, right? And keep it moving. And how fast your fingers get cold is always surprising. Like when you're walking along at a brisk pace and your fingers can start to feel numb and that sort of thing, and you need to have something around your neck. We're not used to going long distances really outside of our vehicles much.
Yeah, we really aren't. We're not conditioned. Our bodies are not conditioned for that. For most of us, you know, unless you're just like super athletic or whatever. I don't mean athletic back in high school, and if that was 20 years ago, I mean athletic now. Unless you're really active and you're really working out and stuff, you're going to have a more difficult time than you think if you do have to trek, like we talked about, because it's going to be a lot harder. And you're going to be, normally when we go out and we exercise and stuff like that, if we do, we go out in conditions that are favorable for us. We don't necessarily go out in the 20-degree weather outside or hurricane weather or whatever, you know. So
yep,
you gotta consider that as well.
It's a lot different than driving to your hot yoga class, right? And then you go home and you jump in the shower. Yeah, you might end up after the hot yoga class having to walk home, and you best have you some water.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely. And you know, Squib, I don't know if you've thought on anything. Just jump in when you do. Another thing, of course, is a first aid kit with rubber gloves. Oh, Frankie made it back in. Yay. First aid kit with gloves. You know, if you come upon an accident, or you yourself or somebody in your vehicle, especially when it's not somebody that you know real well or family member or whatever, you know, you're just like, yeah, I don't really want to be dealing with touching their blood when I don't know what kind of medical conditions they have. But even somebody that you know very closely, they may not reveal everything health-wise to you. They could have Hep C. They could have AIDS or something like that. You do not know, and it's always best to be on the safe side. So first aid kit with gloves.
Well, the only two things that I can think of is maybe keeping the fuel tank full, which is something a prepper does anyhow, and it's not necessarily just for a bug out situation. It's in the cold. If you let your fuel run down too much and you're at the gas station and the wind is whipping and it's negative something and you're freezing, you know, you're gonna regret not filling it up when you just you know, from empty as opposed to, say, 3/4 full. And I know that might be a lot more trips at a gas station, but it's better, for me at least, it's better to be outside 5 minutes freezing instead of, if you've ever filled a pickup truck, it seems like you're there for half an hour. You're not, but that's what it seems like. The other thing, too, is, let's say you get in a situation where you do get in a wreck and you go into a ditch and you break the axle. You bend something and the vehicle doesn't drive, but the engine still runs. As long as that coolant isn't leaking and there's no risk of a fire, that engine can run, and you can just let that engine idle, and that'll keep the inside of the vehicle heated. That'll keep the hazards running, because the battery is only going to allow the hazards to run so long. The headlights on, that sort of thing, and your vehicle's going to be seen from the road with its lights still on down in a ditch, or you may have to spend the night in the vehicle. As long as you don't puncture that radiator, you're good to go. So a full fuel tank, or as full as possible, will extend that. I've had a car idle for 8 hours straight and still had plenty of gas. And then as far as with things inside the vehicle, cell phone chargers. Make
Oh,
sure that your cords are good. You can bend the ends and they won't work. Or what if you have different kinds of cell phones? In our family, we have 2 Droids and 2 iPhones. So I have multiple chargers in the vehicles, and each one of those has 2 ports. And I have cords I have the USB, the USB-C, and the iPhone 6 cord, which I don't know which one that is, the Lightning or whatever it is, in both of our vehicles, and I have them on my motorcycle as well. And if you go on Amazon, you can order USB cords that'll plug into a charger that are 6 foot long, 10 foot long, that sort of thing. So you can have a charger in the front that'll charge somebody's phone in the back if you wanted to, and they're not that expensive compared to buying them, say, at the Verizon store or even at Walmart. The other thing too is you can get USB cords. I don't know about the ones for the iPhones, but USB cords with little flashlights at the end, and when you squeeze the end of the cord, a little LED light will come on, and it's enough that you can see a few things. It's not a high-powered flashlight, but you can use it to light up to see where to plug the dang thing in at, or other things like that. And that may come in useful if you're in a situation where you're stranded and you still got battery power or whatnot, and you need to be able to stay on the phone with 911, and of course you didn't charge your phone, right? So
Right.
yeah, that sort of thing.
Now, see,
Yeah,
that's
I have.
brilliant. I like the long cord. Sorry, Oily.
Well, when I
No,
buy stuff on Amazon, I mean, I buy everything on Amazon. I buy lawnmower
Me too.
parts, gun parts, motorcycle parts. Gift items, whatnot. I buy all kinds. I usually throw on USB cords because the kids will come down and say, "Oh, where are my cord? Here's another." Just pull it right out of the package, whatnot. Earbuds, things like that. I get
Yep.
all that stuff on Amazon. I select free shipping. Okay, it takes a week and a half. I don't care.
Mhm.
The main reason I
Right.
placed the order was because I was getting something expensive, and I just throw this stuff on. Sometimes if you go over $50, you get the free shipping, and I get something
right.
that's $40, and then I buy a 3-pack of USB cords.
Mm-hmm.
10 more bucks, I get free shipping, and what do you know? I got cords all over the house, cords in the car, and when they wear out, who cares? They cost a couple dollars. In the garbage they go. Well, actually in the recycle bin, but and then you just throw another one in there. So
Mm-hmm.
helps out on a
And
long
some,
trip.
and something that's real important is to not be dependent on darn GPS. My young friends, like in their 20s, they can't even get to my house a fourth and fifth time without GPS. And one of them went, "Oh, it took me a weird way. I didn't remember seeing that." And I'm thinking, know how to drive somewhere. Have a map, because if you end up on foot, or we don't have any cell phone coverage, it's that kind of weird thing, SHTF, to know where you're going. But I like that idea of the longer cord for the back for people to multi-charge, right? And then, like you said, if you're able to contact 911 down in a ditch, right, that you've got what you need, not, oh God, I'm down to 1 bar. So that could be quite life-saving. And I had no idea a car could idle that long. That's
Oh
epic,
yeah.
epic knowledge
Now,
for me.
an older car, say like a classic, it can't do that.
Sure.
It'll overheat. But the
No.
newer ones have electric fans. As long as that fan's working, the coolant's working, the water pump's working, you can let that thing
Awesome.
idle all night long. You might have a mechanic say, "Oh, it's not good for it," that sort of thing. I don't know. I run synthetic oil, so I don't have that problem. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, it'll keep it charged. If your engine is out, or you are running it and it starts to overheat and you shut it off because you realize I split the radiator open, or ripped the hose or something like that, you still have a lot of battery power. That 12-volt battery will keep your phone going for a long time. But if you've got the
Nice.
lights on or other things like that,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to drain that battery pretty quick. And remember, your heat comes out of your coolant. Yes, the fan that blows it through the vent is electric, and that'll drain your battery real quick. But the
Okay.
coolant flows from your radiator into a heater core, which is a miniature radiator behind your dash. So as long as you've got hot coolant going through that heater core and you've got power to run the fan, you could keep the car heated. You could be out there in a blizzard and you could keep the car heated. And that's another thing too, is if you're in a position where you are on the side of the road and it is blizzard conditions and they're out there plowing, they may plow you in. They may not even see you and hit you with that plow. So you may have to make a decision. Am I going to stay in this car, or am I going to go? I mean, you've
Yes.
got to be in some pretty serious Lake Erie, western New York snows that are 12 feet deep or whatever, but still it's something to consider. But how many times do we leave the house and we don't have our cell phone charged or something like that? Just make sure your cords are good. They're not expensive to buy replacements, and it'll help you out in the long run on trips and other things like that too.
And just what you were saying, we'll run out to the store. It's only 25 minutes away. I've only got one bar, right? I don't have on my thickest socks because I'm a jump out running the grocery, and we go unprepared, right?
Right, and it's a blizzard, and all the tow trucks are tied up, and it's a 4-hour wait, and
yes.
And you're calling every so often, or you're calling 911, or you're calling whatever, and you're looking at your phone, percentage go down and down, and you have to keep turning it off to save the power, and in real hot or real cold temperatures, the phone battery may not work as well. I definitely know when it gets hot, it'll shut itself off. So, I don't know how much it'll drain that battery, but it's something to consider. The battery for the car, if you can turn on the lights and things like that, the engine won't turn over or whatnot, but the lights will turn on, then that battery is still powering the car. So don't think just because the engine shut off that you don't have, and the car's all wrecked, that you still don't have lights. If the headlights are still on, then that phone charger should still be working and things like that. So should.
One thing I want to mention, as far as car batteries, if you can, they're not too affordable, but as far as a situation like this, is it's probably something that you would absolutely want to invest in, and that's a deep cycle marine battery. And the deep cycle marine battery is it can tolerate a very, very deep discharge over a normal car battery that if you discharge them too much and too often, it will damage the battery itself, and you will end up having a bad battery. So my suggestion would be to invest in a deep cycle battery to help with any type of emergency situation like that, as well as maybe some solar powered cell phone chargers. You can buy them at Harbor Freight now. You can buy the little briefcase solar panels to charge up your car battery, your like I said, your electronics, anything that you might need that will help you stay alive a little bit longer, and that way it gives you a little more of a chance to call for help or be able to signal someone for help.
Yeah. Another great thing is, Squid, when you were talking about how they might plow over you, that's one good reason why a good flashlight is nice, because you can kind of signal to them depending on where you're at. That's not always feasible, but if you see a plow coming, if you can see them, they can probably see you. Flashing your flashlight at them to let them know you're there, something like that, may save your life. Also, having a smart power bank, where mine has a solar, like you can charge it solarly or you can plug it in, and then you can plug your phone into it. So that's something that you can keep in your vehicle if you need to, or just a solar charger is great as well. I have one of each of those, and they're wonderful. But if it's a cloudy day or whatever, I don't like to rely on the solar charger so much, because if it's a cloudy day, especially if it's stormy, blizzard, snow, rainy, whatever, you may not have that sun out to charge your thing. So make sure you pre-charge it before you put it in your vehicle, and if you use it, recharge it again, or recharge it every so often. I want to go through some ideas that are on the side deal. Several people have given great ideas, so I want to go over them. Let's see. I got to get back up here. Sorry. Okay, one of the things that Prepper Madness said was, making sure to let people know when you're going somewhere, what your ETA is. I also think telling them your route. I always have my family do that for me. Which direction are you going when you're heading home or going somewhere? And about how long do you think it'll take, with weather providing. They might say, give me an hour, give me an hour and a half. And if you don't hear from me, if I can get to the stopping point, I'll let you know. If I'm still a ways out, it's going to take a little bit longer, but otherwise, that way I know what direction to send somebody to look for them if they don't make it. Because, especially if you have several different routes, you want to know what route they're going, so that you're not wasting a lot of time, especially if it's really awful inclement weather, you want to know which direction they're going. So that's important. Like you guys were talking about, like you were talking about mouse and not relying on your GPS. Paper maps are great to have if you're not familiar with the area. Paper map, people, and put it in a waterproof baggie or something so that you can just pull it out when you need it. Phoning ahead with an expected ETA, that's what we just talked about. Prepper Madness talked about that. He said he's being a know-it-all troll, but I love the ideas and suggestions. And it's not that I'm ignoring people, if I don't get to everybody, so don't think that. Those little solar chargers, Fanny's the one that brought that up. A jackal and a shovel will get you out of most situations, says Prepper Madness. Absolutely. And remember, we talked about it last time, but if you get stuck in the snow, if your tailpipe is covered up, you need to dig that out. Even if you can't dig yourself out of that situation, they do have little shovel is handy to have to dig out around your tailpipe so you're not getting carbon monoxide poisoning. Go ahead.
If you're waiting on a tow truck and you're bored, you can switch your phone to data and watch Mouse's video on how to make mac and cheese.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, God.
Hawaii volcano style. Boil water. Pour macaroni in. Soften macaroni.
From box.
Put in butter and put in the cheese mix.
Open cheese packet of unknown food origin. Sprinkle liberally. Yeah.
Okay, Prepper Madness also said spare belt in the spare tire compartment. That's a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I mentioned it last time, but a small radio and some batteries in case your battery dies. So you have a reason why your car battery is dead and you can't get info. Two-way radio, a little hand radio. You might be able to get somebody on a frequency going past you, so that's an idea as well.
For the belt, you might want to have a really big screwdriver or pry bar, or you might want to have a breaker bar or ratchet that fits the belt tensioner. Nowadays, the serpentine belt on the vehicle powers everything instead of you having a fan belt and a water pump belt and an alternator belt and stuff like that. So it's one big honking belt, and they've got a spring-loaded tensioner with a pulley on it that keeps the belt tight. So you push on the tensioner and it loosens it so you can slip the belt off. And then on the frame of the vehicle, it's either going to be mounted on the hood or on the frame of the vehicle. There'll be a diagram showing the which way you route the belt over all the pulleys for when you put the new belt on. And you've got to take that tensioner and you've either got to pry on it, or there'll be a square slot cut in it for, say, a 1/2-inch drive, or maybe even a 3/8 drive. I'm not sure. Breaker bar or a ratchet that you would just put in there and you would pull on it, and that would pull the tensioner out of the way so you can slip the belt on. And then when you slip it out, that thing will snap back and it'll put tension, hence tensioner, on that belt. So if you've got a problem with a vehicle snapping belts a lot or that sort of thing, you might want to make sure you've got the right tool in the trunk to change it out.
Absolutely.
Real quick,
And
I talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
I talk about these radios a lot, and these are very inexpensive. This is a Bofeng radio. I have two different models here. This is the UV8 2C, which is Part 90 compliant because I'm a firefighter, and then they also have this 5 UV5RX, I believe. These radios are ham radios. These radios are about they're about $15 on Amazon.
Wow.
And you can take these to someone that can program only what is called a MERS channel, multi-use radio system or radio service channel, and these are free public channels that local businesses like Walmarts and Targets and any of these big places that have radios, is more than likely they're using the MERS channels, and you can get these. One good thing about these, well, there's actually several good things about these that I love. These battery packs actually, let's see if I can remember how to take the battery out. But the battery packs, this is an extended battery for the radio, but in some the pack actually separates from right here and comes off, and you can actually fill the battery pack with AA batteries. That way, if you have, your radio battery and it goes dead, then you have AA batteries that you can use to help. Um, Also, it has a small LED flashlight, and in the monitor button, it if you tap it once, you can actually listen to FM radio. Now, whenever you do start messing with ham radios, you have to be careful because in order to operate one on any ham channels, you have to have a ham license. Um, but like I said, you can program the multi-use radio channels on there, the MERS channels, and be that will help um, maybe find someone that may be within earshot distance. And you can, with ham radios, you can be here in Oklahoma. I can be lost out in the woods and program that channel in and talk and ask for help. And with ham radio, someone in China will hear me and hopefully send me help somehow. But with, like I said, the point is with these ham radios is no matter what, you're going to get someone. Um,
Hmm.
these are probably one of the best things to have, as long as um, the battery is charged, it is taken care of properly, and um, stored properly. But that could be one thing that saves your life. A $20, 15 or $20 radio from Amazon. So I would suggest checking them out and giving them a shot, even if it's in if in a SHTF situation. I don't condone this, but for me personally, if the world comes to an end tomorrow and I have my people around here that have these radios, I am going to. I think the last thing on my mind is to worry about what the FCC is going to say, and if zombies start to attack, then I'm going to be calling my friends on these radios. But I don't condone improper use of these radios. So that being said, just check them out, see what you think about them, look at the reviews on YouTube, look at the way they work on YouTube. Once you get the hang of them, they're really intimidating. But once you get the hang of them, they're really simple to use and operate, and they're just they can be really handy in the emergency situation.
Oklahoma,
Yep.
can you hold that up so we can see the face of it? Hold it still,
Yes,
please. I guess there, say something so you're presenting on the screen.
it's this model right here is the Baofeng, Baofeng UV5. I'm sorry, yeah, this is the UV5R radio,
Thank you.
and it comes with everything you need: charger, uh, booklet, and even the little earpiece for you to be able to use.
Awesome. Sorry, excuse me. I got an itch in my throat, a tickle or something. Ah! Anyway, SKS, you goes out there. Good to see you, SKS. Um, yeah, I still need to get a better kit for my vehicle for sure, to have things in there that I need, and things that you need, like you need them within your arm's reach. You don't want to, say you do go off the road and you're stuck in your vehicle, you want what you need inside the vehicle, like your blankets and things like that. And like We Tree Bonsai suggested, a wool blanket is a great way to keep yourself warm and stuff. But I anything else on my list? I don't think. A signal mirror might be something to think about having in there, but I'm sure
Lily,
we're missing lots of stuff. But
1 second, and I'm sorry, but your debit card, that right there, that little holographic image on the back of your card. I mean, just
yeah,
that's the light from my living room, but that's enough to signal someone. So, make sure that you keep your debit cards, even in a very rare situation that this right here is, this little hologram could be what.
Yeah, it does. It's
it
very
is.
reflective, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, okay, let me say it so I don't hurt his peelings. Hidden numismatis. Hello, my dear.
Hidden numismatis. We're saying it correctly, I hope you know, and we're glad you're here. Hidden numismatis.
Yes.
We're rocking it. We are rocking it, sister.
I tell you. Yeah. For those that came in late, since we kind of went over this, if you think of anything else, put it over in the side chat, or for the panel, holler at me. But for those that came in late, long story short, my mom had some mini strokes, had to go stay with her. And so I was there through the chat. So it was right after my last chat that we had 3 weeks ago that I called my mom. And so I was with her. So that's why I missed that week. And then had a granddaughter sick, and she had just had a baby brother. So I had her a whole lot. So, and then she got me sick. So that's why we've missed the last 2 weeks. And I just want to apologize. But, it kind of is what it is. And got to put my family first. But I sure did miss everybody. Hey, the High Desert Pioneer. So anyway, sorry, I know it probably feels like I'm not very reliable, but I kind of have to be there for my family before anything else. But yeah, my mom is doing a lot better than she did.
We appreciate it, and you're a lot more reliable than me, especially when I can't get my YouTube live to work.
Well, that's not your fault.
Right. I forgot it was Thursday. Okay, I'm day challenged. You've got some phone issues, oily head family issues. Stuff happens, man.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. But I sure, like I said to everybody at the beginning, for those that came in late, I sure missed everybody and kind of felt like in the pits of despair because I didn't get to, kind of just release and joke and enjoy you guys during that time. So I'm glad to be back and back with my friends and catching up with everybody. So anyway, but thank you.
And we nailed it on the time again. I'm telling you, we're like time masters.
We are pretty awesome. So
we have finally became the timekeepers.
Wait, can we be?
Yeah,
can we be
next week something will go crazy, since we said that.
Can we be Time Lords? I'd like to travel around in a TARDIS.
Time Lord, yes.
Yeah, we could be from Gallifrey. Okay,
There
how
you
many
go.
nerds out there understand what I'm saying?
You're talking about what's his name?
Let's be Doctor Who. Let's be
Yes,
Prepper Powwow in a TARDIS. That's who we are.
What to do in a Dalek invasion. Keep gold in case we have Cybermen attack.
Yes.
Prepper Powwow, Doctor Who style.
Yes, there you go.
Does everybody have a sonic screwdriver?
Yes, of course. At least one in each pocket. Oh, God.
I just remembered something. This little $3 magnesium fire steel right here can be used to signal. Just scrape it, and that'll give off enough. Bright. Yeah, it'll give off enough signal to be able to signal somebody. No batteries needed. With these ferrocerium rods, it comes with this little half a hacksaw blade type thing. I've seen these start with a piece of the same concept. Just strike it with a piece of plastic or a piece of broken glass or a rock. Will cause the ferrocerium to ignite on this.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, John Z, welcome. Glad you made it. We're at the end of it, but I'm glad you made it. So yeah, we're back. Hopefully, Lord willing, we'll be back next week again. And I appreciate each of you. And I guess we'll just end it just a little bit early, by a couple minutes. But I kind of started a couple minutes early too. So we all good. Thanks you all for coming. I appreciate you very much, and I love you. And thanks for sticking with me. Bye, guys. Hopefully, we'll see you next Thursday, 8 Central, 9 Eastern Standard Time. Bye, guys.
Good night.